we could get a gardener. Because see, the thing is, what they need to do, like in the hedges out front, also on our north wall, all those dead leaves and all that stuff that's underneath those hedges needs to come out and clean up. Because when they come and spray, it goes on the dead leaves. It doesn't go in the ground. So when I've gone around to some of the places here that buy and sell plants, they said that underneath your hedges, you've got to take and clean that all out. So, one, water. They need to be watered. And also, you can put this chemical on there. Over on front of our place at Heather, well, since I've been here, we've been cleaning up a lot of the fungus and leaves and stuff there. But we've cleaned that all out, added fertilizer because the ground needs it, and watering. And we went and bought the chemical to put in around the plants to kill this fungus. I mean, putting what, synthetic or fake fence up or whatever you want to do, the people that are going to live there on that, western part, you're going to have a lot of noise from the traffic. There's a lot there now, and on top of that, the reason why the shrubs were put there in the first place was to absorb the sound. And this is from years ago. I mean, when I talked to, other people here when January first started coming down here.
Answer all
But it
of
can
this?
be solved by cleaning it up.
I have two things. I think you're right, because there is this much stuff under those bushes.
Right.
And it goes like this toward the blacktop. So if water comes at a good amount, some of that still goes away instead of going into the ground there. But the bushes are so old, wouldn't it pay to have, I don't know, a machine come in and just sort of cut everything at the bottom, even in the front? Just cut them off instead of trying to pull the roots out, and I just think it'd be a lot cheaper, and then it's all in one piece. You lay it down, maybe the city can pick those up. So
If you take and clean it up and fertilize it with water, it'll regrow.
It will regrow?
Because look at your north wall here. We got a lot of dead stuff on there. And
Yeah.
those leaves are
Yes,
there.
Frank, you're very right about all that. You're very right. The question I posed was, is it worth it? We want to try and make things less maintenance, like right now. What did I say? The guy is not cleaning it out.
I know. So can we get a gardener? Yes.
We did. We're hiring the new gardener. But now we have to live with it. That conversation about that hedge is not just today. It was prior. It's like we want to make things easy for vendors so it gets done rather than have to keep repeating the conversation.
Frank, if you look
Watering
at,
and fertilizing. is
right,
just
if you look at the
as
bushes
maintenance.
by the gas station, at the building, that's part of the gas station.
Oh, my
Those
head's
are beautiful,
pounding.
and I'm sure they water them, and I'm sure they're getting fertilized. Those aren't dead, those don't have white fly. They're doing something right,
Yeah.
right at
No,
the,
it's
look
stuff
at the
that-
corner
yeah,
of the
it's
gas
not- you
station.
can take care
Yeah,
of
I
it.
see a big difference.
Anyways.
Establishes a fertilizer.
they're not being watered.
Yeah.
No, they are, theirs are being watered. The gas station has.
When? Now?
Oh, on the other
I have
side?
to make a point. I need, if I'm gonna do the job, which I wanna do about getting estimates about marshalling the pool, I need information, I'm sorry, I'm actually not sorry. I need to have information about the pool, so I would like to have all the papers having to do with the creation of the pool, which will tell me the size, will tell me the depth. Who can get that for me so I can have an intelligent conversation with the companies?
Did you look on the wall there? I think it was on the bulletin board. It's there.
What it's constructed of, when it was constructed?
How many gallons? I think it's a
No,
size.
I'm looking for a total picture so I can talk.
Well, go look and see
intelligently.
what it says on the permit there.
Will someone look to see what it's on the permit? Is that all it says?
I don't know if it's still up there. There was a copy put up.
I want more material about the creation of the pool so I can talk intelligently, not just the volume. I wanted some information.
I don't
about-
remember what's on it,
Well,
Marilyn.
who has those papers?
Well, I'll have to look upstairs.
Expires in June.
it tells me how many gallons,
Oh.
that's not suffice. Someone must have the construction material for the pool. Does anybody know about that?
I could look upstairs. I don't recall off the top of my
You
head.
have the old estimates that you got last year, that should give you a
I
lot
will
of
take
information.
anything
That
that
was
will
the pool deck,
inform me.
not the pool. We took measurements of the whole cement.
See, I can't have
Topping,
a
the
job
deck,
if I'm
not
not
the-
supplied with the
not the-
information.
I said I will look upstairs.
And
I
if
don't
you
know.
If you don't find it, do I have another recourse?
You would
Well,
call a
let me
company
look
and come
first.
and ask them to do an estimate, and they can,
Tony's gonna try and get that
Yeah,
information for you.
so,
All right,
just,
so I will do my job, I need just
Can
some
you
material.
give her a time date? at
why
least?
don't you give me a day to look, because I think there's quite a bit
How
of
about
paper.
March 15th?
No, it will be done before then.
Good, by March 15th.
How about by tomorrow?
Excellent.
Is that March 15th?
No, I'll take tomorrow.
Yeah, give me a day or so, because it's a lot of paper.
Tomorrow, which is the 1st of March.
Yeah, give me till the 2nd, just because it's a lot I have to go through.
Okay,
I'm
John,
giving you till the 15th.
Now, I'll do it by the
Fine.
2nd.
fine.
Can I, a couple of things, can I caution the board not to be penalized and pound foolish? In my estimation, the idea of hiring a gardener, and you say it might be coming with this new gardening service, if they can determine, a professional can determine whether those hedges can be saved or not. And if so, how can they be saved? And if they can't be saved, you gotta go to the next route. And then I would argue that you've got to consider the aesthetics of artificial materials versus green, natural materials. And there are a lot of new hedges around that a lot of people have replaced ficus with. So I would beg you to think about all that before you just kind of cut them all down and stick up artificial material.
What, go ahead.
Just asking you that.
So again, let me see if I could say, it. You're being heard. That's not the point of this. There's a small space at the top
I
where you
understand
can't
that.
write.
That could maybe be different. I understand. what you're
Okay. Then there's the issue of a gardener.
saying. Right.
Well, we're gonna hope this one does a good job. What's the likelihood?
Right.
When I walked the property with him and I said, "You see this mess?" He says, "Oh, we'll take care of that."
The hedges?
Well, the mess underneath,
Okay, yeah.
because go look at it, it's pretty bad.
Okay.
Why did we wait so long to go with somebody, walk around and look at the hedges with all the garbage? That should have been looked at every week, at least once a month with the gardeners. Nobody walks around again and goes with the vendors to see what they're doing. There's a bush out there from the last meeting, still hasn't been trimmed. Still hasn't been trimmed since the last meeting when I brought it up. Why doesn't the board, people on the board, walk around and look to see what has to be done with the vendors? Don't leave it up to Steve, don't leave it up to Basil.
Uh-huh.
That would
So
help.
there are conversations that take place. After a while, people don't hear. Is it weekly I walk it? No. After the conversation, anybody could do it. You're all certainly not shy telling vendors what to do around here.
Oh, no, I don't do that. I'm
Oh, you
sorry.
don't? Oh,
That's not
maybe
my
you
place.
don't.
No, right.
But certainly other
Not my
people
place.
have, do this, do that. Again,
So you should
people
be out
see.
there and telling them that's not their job, or that's not their place to talk to the vendors.
oh, that works so well around here.
Okay?
Yeah.
Well, I have another
Anyway,
question.
let's finish with John. Yeah, let's finish with John. John, there's another issue to take into consideration. When you pull out of that driveway, again, because those hedges have not been, it's another inch here, another inch there, and I've had that conversation with Kyle. They keep going up, they keep going out because it's less for them to trim. So the wise thing, and again, it's just an opinion, is not to give vendors too much work, where it's clean the pool, do that. And then you can't see going out. It's always trim that. And then it's another reminder because they don't see. They're not paying attention. So to answer your question about the cheap, again, it's a valid point. It's not I hear it. So the key is, she mentioned like an ivy. And then maybe saw a beautiful home with purple vine flowers going up it. I mean, I was amazed. It could really look good. The issue with the sound barrier, I can't think, it's probably that if it's more tight, it's gonna be, that looks tight to me, that's gonna be a better sound barrier than what we got out there now. So taking all those factors into consideration, it is something, again, it was brought up to me, I didn't even come up with it. It's something for the board to look at, and then we could manage getting the fakeness, or the fake, or cheap looking out of it.
But again, penny wise, pound foolish, aesthetics are really important.
Right.
I also think that you need to hire, this goes back to a year ago, and I realize I was, the chairman of the committee on the entrance. And the board voted in the majority not to go with the professional landscaping. Even though, in my opinion, with 314 units, we should get a professional to redesign that entrance. I know you didn't want to spend the money, you thought you could do it cheaper. We're a year later.
Well, it's a little bit more than that, that's part of it.
But we're a year later and nothing is moving on that at all. And, again, I don't see where even this board, for a building, for a complex this size, the board can't handle nickel and diming and, get somebody to throw a few bushes in. To me, these are things you hire professionals for.
Well,
That's why you hire a landscape company. And if you hire a landscape company that doesn't have the expertise to look at those bushes and figure out whether, if they're just, I remember you complaining about Kyle at one point, saying he's not a landscaper or something, or a gardener, he just knows how to.
He does a great job on the grass.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. So if that's what you think, then you need the professional who
Right.
actually has expertise, a botanist.
That's what we're
somebody who looks
doing.
at that and says,
That's what
can
we're
it be
doing.
saved or not?
That's what we're doing, they're starting
I hope that's true with that. Again, the
April
entrance,
1st, yeah.
All these things, I beg the board to think of
So,
aesthetics.
so just to answer something, because you made a statement and you're making a presumption again, you have to start with an opinion.
Right.
So to go to a professional, they're gonna ask you, what do you want? You have to give them an idea. You just don't say, figure it out. So,
I should design something.
well, design, but that would be fine. You still have to, what kind of plants do you want? You go to a nursery, you say, gee, I like that, and you come back to the board and you say, hey, what do you think? And they say, that looks good. And then you just hire somebody to input what you want.
Again, that's taking out the
Is
design.
this gonna work? Does this
It's-
need water, this need less
I
water?
think that the person,
It's the discussion.
designer, whatever, should go with whoever on the board, or maybe more than one, to the plant place, and then discuss while he's there, so he can say, no, you have these to choose from,
There
not
you
all
go.
of them.
Right, that's what
I
I'm
get
saying.
it, but with all due respect, and Tony and I had this back and forth last year, and Peg also, and you all think that we just go to the local landscape company and then we each kind of make decisions and we kind of redesign it. I realize you can hire a contractor who's got a truck and shovels and they can do what you tell them to do. That doesn't make it a professional job. That doesn't make it for a complex this size.
Right.
That has not had the entrance touched in since I've lived here for 20 some odd years. And when do you decide that something needs, again, I talk about aesthetics, when do you decide that a professional who actually can design, sketch, lay things out and say, these are the plants that work? Because I've got training in this background. Not just, I go to a landscape, to a local landscaper like I would for a private house because I'm doing my private thing. Again, you're gonna make the decision, you have the majority, but again, it's a year later, we're still in the same place.
Again,
Even if
you
I-
hear what I
I
just said,
want it.
John?
Yeah.
You are the majority. It doesn't have to be that way. You keep saying that.
I
It
know,
can be
so
5-0. We can get this, all of us can get this done.
Right.
But you keep
I
that,
know, because,
you're the majority.
no, I didn't say I was the majority.
No,
I said-
you
No,
said, you did say you're the majority.
No.
Tim, 3-2, 3-2.
I meant 3-2.
That's what he meant.
Then-
That's what he meant,
Look,
3-2.
You had the right, you voted against the recommendation of the committee.
Right.
And that's what I meant by you're the majority. I didn't mean that I was the majority.
Well, that's what I meant. We
Because-
voted, but we gave you a reason why.
I
It
know
wasn't,
you did. I
it
know.
wasn't just, we didn't
No,
like
I
what you
agree.
came up with.
I agree. Peg brought a very impassioned thing. She had a cost factor.
Right.
She gave her opinion. Fine. But I'm just saying, it's a year later, we're not moving forward, and I, as a committee member, we had our say. You're not using our recommendations. Then what is the board gonna do now to do what you keep suggesting, which is go to the landscape company? I'm not gonna do it, and I don't believe most of the committee. That doesn't mean you won't find other people. If you can find other people who wanna go to the landscape companies, if you wanna do that, Tony, and you wanna come back to your board, and you wanna say, this is what I propose, you have a right to do that. You have a majority vote, if you can get the other two people to agree with you, but I'm just saying, we're a year
Yeah,
later.
well,
And-
how about 3 years? I think we're into
Okay,
3 years
exactly.
later. Everything's
Said
like
do
3
it
years
when the
late.
road was fixed.
It's,
Right.
you're right.
Are you
And
still?
again, difference of opinion on cost, I understand what Peg's argument was, that why pay these people up front. She had a right to her opinion, I disagree with her, she had a right to say that, you know, we're spending all this money without knowing what the product is. My thing was, you spend the money, professionals design something for you.
Right, John, you made that point. You made
Again,
that
we're
point.
talking about ripping out all those hedges. My next door neighbor, who's lived in the complex for 30-plus years, said that the last time the hedges were put in, they had to do an assessment. You know, that's what they did. They did an assessment because they had to get those bushes.
Well, that's when Nancy was on the board.
Okay, well, whatever. Again, that's history. But bottom line is.
Well, you brought it up, so I had to explain
And again, one of the
it.
things that seems to never, I'm not, and again, Tony, you and I have had this discussion. I don't think that all the people sitting here are in favor of spending a ton of money. And this threat that you've sort of made a few times, like what happens in April if, you know, you get thrown off the board and this board, let's say, for example, like all hell's gonna break loose. We all live here. We all live under a budget. We all know that, you know, we don't wanna go outrageous with costs. So, and again, there's always gonna be difference of opinion on spending. But sometimes you gotta do an assessment to bring something up to a
Did
standard.
I just
that
not
used
say
be.
to her, wait a minute, John, I sometimes think, again, nobody can hear. Did I just not say to Wendelin, if necessary, we can
Yes,
have
you
an
did.
assessment?
You did. You
Yeah,
did.
so it's not, again, anti or, it's not that. We have to look what is, and we have to try, and this kind of point of view.
Right.
I would say that's almost common sense. So it's not that you're not heard or somebody's not listening. If a special assessment has to be done to get the job done, okay, it's to be taken into consideration. But, like, get back to the landscaper, you're saying a landscape architect. I'm sure there are I'm sure they exist, good landscapers out there without the title architect after the name. I'm sure you can agree with that.
Possibly. What I'm saying, though, is to me, my opinion and the opinion of the committee, which represented all three.
Right.
I didn't say it represented everyone. It represented the committee of all three condo associations, was that we should hire a professional. And obviously.
But again, I never said, I or we never suggested otherwise. It's just at what level to hire for that little piece of land.
Right. But you
So
can
a
say that-
water feature may cover the whole thing, we don't know, we haven't gotten that far
Right.
yet.
And you mentioned that little piece of land, and it's true, but it involved a brand-new sign, it involved a water feature. And again, I gave to the
I get
committee
that.
at the time and to you, a landscape architect had great ideas for minimizing the, as I keep calling it, the prison yard entrance, by putting greenery where the directory is. She talked about doing it in stages. We could have been in stage 2 this year. You know, I mean, in other words, these are people who are professionals who design it, who say, this is where you can get rid of some cement here. You can put in pavers, for example, and we had back and forth about.
John, let me ask you something, why can't you come up with these
Because I'm
ideas?
not a professional.
Oh, but you know what you like, right?
300 units, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
okay.
I'm yelling.
No, it's not about that. The suggestion was, go take a drive around, go see what other homes or condos look like.
I've taken pictures of condo signage, I've taken pictures of fountains, I took pictures of every hedge that could
Okay.
replace this hedge.
Yeah.
But as a committee, it's defunct, you guys voted it down. What I'm asking you now is, please, as a board, start talking about this and move it. And even if it's not what I or this committee wanted, get something done.
Guess
With all
what?
due
She is
respect.
today. She's doing it today. You're meeting with somebody.
Yeah, I know. Some of those things are moving.
But there are other options.
Yes.
Well, it's a start of an option, correct?
Yes.
You guys tried to do.
And I also, if I may say, I hope you have more meetings, because I know you and I had a private conversation about meetings should be about votes, yes. But you gotta have meetings in order to move things ahead. A lot of condo associations do a monthly meeting because they feel it's necessary to keep the agenda moving. They look at the minutes, they say, we talked about this last time. What happens here often is we talk about it and an entire year goes by before the next time we bring the same thing up at this meeting. So if we have monthly meetings, we can move.
Well, John, but you have to be fair. You have to take the whole situation in perspective.
Yeah.
There was no board members in last summer.
I understand.
But you can't just make the statement and not finish it, you know, it's an unfortunate situation. Today, we had to live with this.
I know.
The screaming where the cops had to come. I see on half of the
They do not
agenda.
need to come. They do not need to come. Don't even say that.
See, now,